Welcome back to the Nurturers Pod. We got a special guest with us this week. We got Patrick O'Driscoll, the founder and owner of the Visionary Group. I know you do a lot of other stuff, so I'll kind of let you introduce yourself. If you haven't already seen him on your socials, I know that's where I first came in touch with you. I saw you on TikTok, gave you a follow on Twitter, and then that's kind of where we were able to
Yeah.
connect. But yeah, man, I'll just let you kind of introduce yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate it. So, yeah, my name's Patrick O'Driscoll. I'd say my main focus is an agency. We don't like to call it an agency, but essentially, it's the Visionary Group is a e-commerce growth partner, mainly focused on the fitness industry. So, my big goal is to become one of the go-to marketers in the fitness industry. And so, TVG works with brands like supplements, apparel. Even we're getting into like brick and mortar retail supplement stores, kind of anything that goes into health, wellness. We like to say that we like to work with brands that make people feel good. So, if your products are helping people live a healthier lifestyle, that's the type of brands we want to work with. And then we have our own in-house supplement company called Vision Nutrition, and then Dogged Sportswear, which is a fitness apparel brand as well. Really, those are just like sandboxes to us. Of course, we want to scale them and make them, big brands in the space, but those have been cool to have like an actual own brand. We're not just agency owners or agency guys that kind of just like act like we, what we're talking about. We actually are like implementing things into our own brands and kind of using that as a sandbox to learn. So yeah, that's basically my main focus right now.
I love it, man. No, that's great. And I think when I was watching one of your guys' YouTube videos, you kind of started partnering with Dogged and
Mhm.
Visionary through, it was more like, correct me if I'm wrong, but you came in almost as an agency and then you
Yeah.
guys kind of collaborated and started working together from there. Is that right?
Yeah, so my partner Cannon, who grew up here down in Dallas, started Yo Club Fitness, which was a fitness apparel brand that blew up on TikTok. Like it was this kind of when TikTok was blowing up during the pandemic. A lot of people were working out from their home gyms, whatever. Cannon was playing D1 football at Texas Tech, started the brand kind of out of his garage when he was kind of put back home. Quickly grew the brand on TikTok. Got a few of like the biggest, fitness influencers on TikTok at the time as creators and influencers, and that kind of caught fire. And he scaled that to $1 million run rate brand in a year, kind of as a 20-year-old. And so I came in, I was helping him out with, he was my first client because I had an original agency called Omedia. And Omedia was a local marketing agency that mainly focused on like content and organic social stuff. And I was running around Boston, Massachusetts, just working with various clients, restaurants, gyms, just all sorts of stuff. Because essentially, I was studying finance in college, and I wanted to figure out some way to be self-employed, and I had basic knowledge of how to use a camera. So that was kind of my first step. Was just like, all right, I'll figure out how to go do the service for clients. I like social media, so I'll help them out with social media. And I kind of fell into, I mean, some of my favorite brands that I looked up to kind of in my teen years and early 20s, still in the early 20s, but over the last few years was like Gymshark, Alpha Lead, and all these brands that were e-commerce dominant. I was like, how can I get into
Mhm.
that space? Because essentially I like originally was like, I want to be when I was 15, 16, I want to be like a fitness influencer. I quickly realized I don't want to be a fitness influencer. I want to be like an operator. And I was like, how can I live that
Yeah.
lifestyle while working on these awesome projects and stuff like that? That's how I figured out about e-commerce. Like, I'm gonna figure out how to break into this space. So under my own local agency, O Media, I took a course on e-commerce marketing, started hitting up brands. I cold DM'd Canon. Canon was my first client for Yo Club. I was just running his ads. Honestly, wasn't even getting that great of results, but like he kind of like respected my hustle and knew that we could do some damage if we just kind of dialed some things in. And so Yo Club continued to scale. Canon quickly realized that he almost wanted to. I think he felt like the brand was a little bit immature. It was kind of low quality, sort of like uh, products. It was selling like crazy, but it was kind of like fast fashion. He wanted to create a more premium brand. So he rebranded Yo Club into Dogged Sportswear, and Dogged Sportswear was Zach Free's brand, and Zach Free part of a Canon to create Dogged. And during that time, obviously Canon started Yo Club, and Canon started to kind of gain recognition in the space, especially down here in Dallas. There's a lot of fitness brands down here. So he started working with Rise, Man Sports, these massive brands on helping them out with some influencer stuff. And he came to me, he's like, Pat, how do I charge? How do I, go to a business and charge them for my services? I was like, oh, he mentioned a brand. He's like, this brand wants me to work with them. Oh, just charge them 3K a month. He's like, 3K a month, really? I can just go charge 3K a month. I'm like, yeah. You scale the brand like to 1 million. If you want to work as like a consultant, just charge them 3K a month, see what they say. He goes and pitches them 3K a month. They're like, all right, done. So he's got that deal. And so he was like, all right, this is something here. So he reached out to me. He's like, all right, we should make a bigger agency, like almost like partner up. I can get more leads and we can get bigger projects and we can tackle more than just paid ads. And so that created TVG about a year and a half ago, and we made so many mistakes, probably the first 6 to 12 months of TVG, just kind of like really just making just crazy mistakes, taking on bad clients, doing just certain things. And now we feel like we have this very efficient, great group of clients that's growing steadily, we're working on projects that we love. And now we're here today. So that's the whole kind of origin story and backstory of TVG.
No, dude, that is amazing. I didn't realize the yeah, just the process of everything of how it all went down. Because I think it was about a year ago when you guys decided. I think you're doing like a 30-day challenge when you guys were just like posting on TikTok every single
Yeah.
day. All three of you guys. That's when I first came in touch with you.
Yeah.
And then just yeah, being in the kind of the same world in e-commerce.
Yeah.
We crossed paths quite a bit, but I had no idea what that backstory actually entailed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just crazy. And I think that just kind of goes to show like trial and error is really the best and only way that you're going to figure things out.
Hmm.
Because I mean, obviously, when you guys dove into to partnering with these brands, like you had no idea what you're doing, so you're just
Right.
trying to figure it out. And like I think it's great that you have your own brands where you can go and test out those different strategies and different things.
Hmm.
And I think yeah, just like emphasizing so much on just going, starting, and figuring it out all along the way, because you're never going to be at a point where I feel like you know everything.
Right.
And so yeah, it's just a matter of trial and error, which is great,
100%.
man.
I think,
Um,
yeah, I think a big thing that I'm like really good at is kind of just looking bad doing something. So I'm like totally fine being like an amateur at something, just putting myself out there and just like getting no's like all day long. And I think I quickly like realized that it's sort of just like continuous, I guess, outreach, talking to people. The more people you talk to, more opportunities come your way. Trying to just iterate on your craft and just trying to figure out, okay, I'm going to go out and provide video services. Oh, but video services, I'm running around the camera. It's not very scalable. Okay, so I'm gonna hire an editor overseas to do my editing, so I can just shoot the content and then have an editor do it for cheap. That takes up time, and then slowly you kind of just continue just iterating, testing things, failing, losing money, making money, and then things start to kind of take their own path. And that's why I feel like over the last kind of 3 to 4 months, I'm finally kind of feel like I have stuff at least sort of organized. I'm so obviously, like you said,
yeah,
you're always gonna be learning, but it's just crazy when you start something like this. So
no, that's crazy, man. Super cool stuff. So I'm gonna take it back a little bit. I know
yeah.
that you said when you were like in high school, 15, 16 years old,
Mhm.
you always thought that you wanted to be a fitness influencer. Did you
Mhm.
play sports, or where did that kind of stem from?
Yeah, I played. I was pretty good at lacrosse through high school. I played D2 lacrosse in college, and I was like, my dream was to go D1. But I really really lifting. I fell in love with lifting through lacrosse, or just like after school training and stuff like that. I started like lifting more than lacrosse, and by the time I was in college, I was like doing powerlifting meets and stuff, and I was like, I want to. I think I like lifting more than lacrosse. I stepped away from lacrosse, but honestly, I was super egotistical. I was kind of pissed off that I wasn't playing D1, so I was like kind of threw in the towel. I was playing
Yeah.
D2, and then yeah, I just focused on lifting. I had like a solid year or two where was my only goal, and I wanted to become like really good at powerlifting. And I got pretty strong and got pretty solid at that. And then COVID hit, so that kind of got flipped on its head. But yeah, I really lifting, consuming fitness influencer content in high school. So I was a super skinny kid. Seeing that you can transform yourself was really inspiring. And so I thought at the time I wanted to do the kind of influencing thing. But then I
Yeah.
realized like the guys that I really, really liked over time was like Ben Francis, who's the CEO of Gymshark, even like Max Tuning, Christian Guzman, who are more, they're kind of influencers as well, but really they're entrepreneurs and operators as well. So it's like, that's pretty cool that you can kind of build these businesses in the space. You don't have to be just like an influencer posting on social. You can kind of build these more sustainable, businesses out of it. So
No, 100%. I think that's super interesting because I feel like least for me, yeah, like through high school and stuff, played football, played baseball.
Mhm.
So I was always in that space, and I always enjoyed like going to the gym and stuff.
Yeah.
But it was kind of the same story. I went to go play football.
Hmm.
It was D2 football, and COVID happened. They ended up like all the different scholarships and things got messed up, and so they
Yeah.
ended up pulling mine. I got
Hmm.
sent back home, and during that time was like when I was really just trying to figure myself out and what I
Yeah.
wanted to do. Luckily, I kind of fell into the e-commerce space.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think especially like fitness and health and that entire space, like Master Tune, I think he's a stud.
Yeah.
I love watching his content. I've really got into like Nick Bear
Yeah.
and BPN stuff lately,
Hmm.
just for training and stuff. But I agree. I think those brands that are able to capitalize on not only just the product but the type of social media that they're able to put out
Yeah.
for people to consume, it's crazy, and you can really build a brand off of anything nowadays, which is just incredible. And there's so much opportunity. So no, I think that's super cool. And on top of that, just taking it back to high school a little
Yeah.
bit, like I think I don't know. At least for me, I know coming out of high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So it sounds like you went and played lacrosse at
Yeah.
college. Did you end up graduating from college?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Very nice. What was that experience like? Like as far as the actual academics and taking
Yeah.
sports out of it?
Well, it's kind of funny. I remember in high school very vividly saying I want to do marketing in the fitness industry. Like I remember like it was almost like something I figured out. Like in some capacity, I wanted to work in this industry. Um, and I went to Bentley University, which is like a small school outside Boston, business school, and it was a solid program, but it was like it just printed accountants and like Wall Street guys, and so like I was like. I they had marketing, but I was like, I don't really want to do marketing here. Like, I feel like I can teach myself marketing, almost like know more about marketing just by doing than kind of just learning. So I was like, I'll study
Yeah,
finance because I think it's kind of a valuable skill, and maybe I'll go down that route. I almost tried to convince myself that I was going to go down that route freshman, sophomore year of being like
yeah.
doing the finance internships and all that stuff. But quickly I realized that yeah, marketing was really my thing, and so. Um, yeah, what was your question? Something about high school. I think where was I going with this? What was your
No,
question?
I was just asking about like your kind of journey, how you
Yeah,
ended up in college,
yeah,
and what kind of
the
inspired that
sports world.
decision to
Yeah,
like go after the specifically sports and like fitness,
yeah,
the fitness industry in general.
yeah. So yeah, like I said before, I think that the fitness industry was always just an industry I wanted to work in. I didn't know what capacity through high school. Yeah, so I wanted to do marketing. Decided to do finance because I thought marketing degree was worthless in my opinion, and finance was like maybe would make my time more worth it at college. And so I quickly realized like after my first internship in finance, like this is not what I want to do. COVID hit, and it was just like I'll just figure it out. So that's where I saw my opportunity to be like, I'm going to give a whole summer between my junior and senior year, which is usually the year that, guys, especially in finance or business, they go and get like their big internships and hopefully they'll get lined up for a job after college. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. Like, I can do that, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go into this. I'm going to spend a whole summer. I had a few really good clients at the time uh, that were local kind of entrepreneurs. So they're almost like mentoring me a bit. So that was pretty inspiring and kind of gave me that sort of spark to fully dive into entrepreneurship. And so I had this little office I was renting for like $300 a month in the heart of my hometown. And it was like this old, like rugged building that was built probably like in the 1700s. And I had my little office space and I was running around with a camera, just helping people out. And yeah, that kind of like, that was the first sort of, I guess, trial where I was like, all right, can I just use this summer to make something happen? And I kind of built that confidence that I can lean further into it. I was like, all right, I have my whole senior year ahead of me. I'm going to just do everything I can to make this a viable business. And that senior year, like I pretty much checked out of school. I was barely going to school, especially the second semester, barely going to school, skipping a lot of classes. I was traveling. I had some crazy clients where I was traveling to like Costa Rica and like I had all these crazy opportunities throughout my senior year, where I pretty much just was tapped out of school, did the bare minimum, and just got by. And so, yeah, with that sort of senior year being kind of crazy and fully convincing myself to, I guess, lean fully into entrepreneurship, that's when I graduated, in 2022, spring 2022, and was like, all right, I'm gonna, go do this. And that was at the time where we started to build TVG. Cannon said everyone moved down to Texas. Zach was in California. I was in Boston. We all kind of moved down to Texas a month after we graduated to just work on this and make it something that, would eventually work out. And it's still something that we thought it would be like we moved down here and we'd be profitable, making a shit ton of money month one, but just not how it goes. So it's been a year of like difficulties, probably the hardest year of my life, but it's been worth it for sure.
Gotcha, man. No, that's super interesting. Are you from Boston originally then?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, cool. You mentioned something about like mentors within the space itself.
Yeah.
Just talking with a bunch of different people on this podcast specifically, it's what a lot of people have mentioned. They're like, if I could have one piece of advice, I would tell the person coming out of college, coming out of high school, go find a mentor in the space that you want to be in
Hmm.
and do anything and everything you can to work with them. So
Yeah.
I guess my question with that was, how were you able to find these mentors? Did you approach them? How did you go about approaching them?
Yeah.
Tell me just a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So I was my first like one of my first mentors was actually my first client who he was actually growing up. I went to this gym called MBX, and it was this kind of gym for high school athletes, and it was especially like being in the lacrosse scene. It was very much like football, lacrosse. You kind of train there. It wasn't like a gym you kind of go to. It was like a sports specific personal training gym, and a
Hmm.
guy there that I knew of, his name was Pat McCauley, and he was a trainer at the gym. And I kind of stayed connected with him. I was probably like 12, 13 when he was a trainer there. But I kind of stayed connected, like followed him on Instagram, and he was doing a lot of cool stuff where in the vegan space actually, which is not a space I'm necessarily like passionate about or really like focused on at all, but that was his big, he had a very good story about how eating a plant-based diet influenced his life. He kind of dove all into that because he had an engineering background, but he started to build this brand all around veganism, plant-based diet, and endurance training. So he was doing marathons, triathlons, etc. So I stayed connected with him for a while. I knew that he had a podcast. I knew that social media was a priority for him. I knew he was local. I knew of him. I don't know if he knew of me, but I just hit him up on LinkedIn and I was just like, hey, like, my name's Pat. I'm starting out this kind of videography business. Like, I'd love to help you out on social. And he was down, and I was like such a hard. I like we did this. He just wanted me to train or record his training session, and so he invited me out. It was like 6 a.m. I had like my camera, I had a drone. I was going like way over the top just for this little shoot, and he was like, You should just charge me on a retainer." And I was like, "What's a retainer? Like, what do you mean? Like, just charge me like, let's say we do this 3 or 4 times a month. Like, just let me know what it would cost." And I was like, oh my God, I could charge $1,000 a month. So I was like, holy shit, I can charge $1,000 a month. And so I was working with him for a while, and he really kind of whenever I like talked about like my own like risks of like not getting an internship or pursuing videography or not doing finance compared to the risk that he was taking, which was like millions of dollars. He was basically launching a vegan kind of fast food chain, sort of like it's called Plant Pub. It's like a vegan sort of pub fast food type vibe. It's pretty cool. So he was like in the restaurant space. He's trying to launch his businesses. He had a book, he had a podcast. He's doing all the media stuff, and kind of I saw that and I was like, oh, like this is so doable. Like I'm literally every single week I'm meeting this guy. I'm shooting his podcast for him. I'm going out to filming his runs. I'm going out to cool like events and filming behind the scenes. And I kind of saw what he was doing, and I was like, wow, like I could do this 100%. And so he gave me a bunch of advice. He was sort of in the fitness industry, sort of in the health wellness industry. So that was super cool to see someone crushing it there. So he was like the first really mentor who was just like a client slash a mentor who we're going to start. He actually is launching an e-commerce brand kind of in the space as well, who we're going to be working with next month. So it's cool, kind of full circle moment there. And then I did like there's plenty of other kind of mentors that are kind of I guess, just in my life or clients that I work with that are sort of mentors. I also think like I paid a lot my senior year, pretty much put all my money back into just like paid mentorships and courses. And like, I think that some of that, like, yeah, also have to be careful with that stuff. But the way that I invested into it, I think I got a bigger ROI on spending like literally like probably tens of thousands of dollars my senior year on courses that weren't even my college university, but I spent, tens of thousands of dollars on that senior year or whatever of university. But I got more ROI on probably like all those courses and stuff that I really invested into. So I think, yeah, investing into yourself, finding mentors that are like, I feel like there's kind of you either want to, people say find a mentor and it's like kind of Ty Lopez where you're trying to like buy a mentor or something like that. I think almost sort of like an exchange of value mentor is really cool. And that's how I got my first mentor being Pat McCauley, who was that vegan entrepreneur. It was like I was running around with a camera. I was also a fly on the wall, and I was also able to talk to him on a regular basis about the stuff he was doing. So I was providing him value. I wasn't just wasting his time, asking him questions, and it was a very like beneficial relationship. And so if you can kind of like if you see a guy and maybe you can go provide like a service to them like social media or help them build their personal brand, I think that's a really cool end to be sort of like someone that's of value to this guy that you can bounce ideas off of, but you're not kind of just like wasting someone's time. Because like I watched a podcast or something the other day where this guy super successful was like, I hate when people just say, can I just bounce some ideas off you, or can I just have 15 minutes of coffee where there's no value? It's kind of just like, I just need your opinion on something. So I think if you're looking to work with high performers or guys of high caliber, you're not going to just get a freebie mentorship. And they're also probably not the guys that charge for a course or whatever because they're too busy running for their actual business. So if you can try to come in, provide value, provide a service, I think that's like the best way to go about it. So
No, that's super good advice. I myself like never had a mentor.
yeah,
I mean, just different people in my life have been influential, but
yeah,
like specifically someone who's been like, "Hey, this is what I do. I want you to do XYZ," and kind of learning directly from him or with him,
yeah,
by providing some type of service or skill. Like I've never had that, and I think it'd be something that even today would be super beneficial.
yeah,
So I'm working on that, but at the same time, I think it's super cool how you were able to kind of find that opportunity organically through your network, through people that you knew
yeah,
from your gym, and take those experiences and kind of scale and take it to where you are now, obviously. So I do have another question though.
yeah.
So you were in Boston, Zach was out in California, Cannon was in Texas.
Mhm.
The move to Texas, like, was that something tough for you? How has that experience been moving away from home?
Mhm.
Just yeah, tell me a little bit
Yeah.
more about that because I know leaving like your hometown can sometimes be tough.
Yeah, it wasn't really too hard for me. I think I mean I grew up in Boston, went to college in Boston, so I never really had that kind of like going away experience that some people might have if they go off to like a college far away. So it was kind of like really refreshing for me, and it really just like lit a fire under my ass to make something happen. I knew that if I tried to grow TVG where we're all kind of separate and I could easily fall into it just working from my home. I could easily fall into just like maybe it fizzles out or it doesn't work. It doesn't work because I'm comfortable. Kind of moving down here was like, all right, now I have rent. Obviously, I'm living on my own. I have all these expenses. I need to make this work. We're all together. And also, Texas is pretty like Houston area is massive for the fitness industry. Dallas is pretty big for the fitness industry. So like from a business standpoint, just being down here has allowed so many more opportunities that I probably wouldn't have gotten if I was still up in Boston. So yeah, the move was hard. It was hard like maybe the first few days. Then it became pretty easy. I kind of eased into it. And yeah, I mean it's definitely something that I'm probably gonna move back to Boston when I have like a family or like in the next few years. But for right now, it's kind of like my fuel to just like make things happen right now. And yeah, we'll see. I think I could. I mean, I want to be able to just bounce around anywhere, but I think Texas. I freaking love Texas so far. The only downside is no water, which I miss. Other than that, I think it's a great spot.
Is so I was out in Texas a couple weeks ago when we're flying out. There was like in Austin, there was no water at the airport at all. Is
Yeah.
that the case like where you're at, or what? What do
Yeah,
you
I
mean
mean,
by
there's
that?
lakes. Like, when
Yeah.
I say water, I mean like ocean, like living on
Ah, okay, okay,
Boston,
gotcha.
it's like we're on the ocean or whatever, so it's nice. You can
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
go to the
yeah.
beach whenever. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
That makes more sense. I was like, oh wait, is this a Texas thing? No one has water right now?
No.
But no, that makes more sense.
Yeah, yeah.
No, dude, I actually love Texas. I moved out there just for summer. I lived out in
Yeah.
Waco and then Frisco for
Yep.
a little bit.
Yep.
And I loved it. Like we me and my wife, we just bought a house here, but I think once we're kind of like ready to move,
Yeah.
I think we might end up there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyways, it's a great spot to be.
100%.
Super cool, man. Well, I guess this is kind of my last question
Yeah.
then. So with all your experiences, with your mentorship, moving down to Texas, starting these different agencies, and scaling these brands, like if you could have one piece of advice for yourself, looking back on all these experiences, what would that be?
Yeah, I'd say just to keep moving is like a very simple one because there's always these kind of seasons. It's almost like quarterly or even like every 6 months where maybe things aren't going the way that they should be, and I get really like down bad. And sometimes I get like so down on myself that I like stop taking action. And so I can literally see it over like a calendar last 3 years. I can look at it and be like, all right, there was these kind of five experiences that were really negative, but if I just kept moving, like kept taking action, I probably could have gotten through them easier. And so now when I face adversity or anything like that, I just know I just need to like I can't stop. I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to slow down. You just got to kind of keep moving in that direction. So, for example, if a big client leaves and maybe we're losing a ton of revenue, I'm not gonna feel down bad about myself or whatever, or take it personally. I think that's another big thing, not to take like business things personally and be able to separate your self-worth from your business results and your kind of personal life. You can still be proud of yourself, even if you lose a deal or lose a ton of money and not get too kind of hurt about that. So being able to separate, your work successes and failures with your personal and be able to just continue to take action because if you stop and slow down, you're only the only way out is kind of through it. So just maintain that positivity and optimism through those tough times is my biggest advice. So now being all through that, I kind of know that now I almost have like the tools in my toolbox now. So when shit happens, I can attack that in kind of a better way than I probably have in the past. So that's my big
No,
lesson.
I love that. Movement's key. Like, I think it's just like for anything in life, honestly, whether
Yeah.
it's business or personal or relationships, like you can't dwell on what happened in the past. You got to always be moving and focusing on the present or the future and those
100%.
goals that you're chasing. And so, yeah, not really dwelling on those failures or successes,
Yeah.
because I know obviously, like, I feel like, at least for me, on social media, you don't hear a lot about other people's failures. It's
Right.
mostly about their wins,
Yeah.
about the type of successes that you're having.
Yeah.
So if you're just looking from a social media standpoint, it can be super frustrating.
Yeah.
So you almost feel like, bro, like these people didn't go through this. Why am I having to go through this,
Right.
right? Which I've really appreciated with you guys because I feel like with your content, you've been super transparent with
Mhm.
that. But yeah, realizing that everyone messes up, has these different mistakes in business, and in life, and being able to move past that and just keep moving.
Yeah.
I think that's a great motto, just
And
like to live by for sure.
yeah, and I think on that note, kind of what you mentioned too, like we've actually, in social media, it's easy to kind of just paint the highlights or whatever. I think one of our biggest leg up and what we realized in the last even 3 months was that like being so like not like not like overly authentic where you share like everything, but like sharing your losses and being real kind of like connects makes more connections, more authentic connections with people, kind of honestly grows our business because I don't know, I think in this age of like gurus and all that type of stuff where you're kind of just like acting like you know everything, what I realized is like real recognizes real. In the last 6 months, I've been able to connect with like the most real established brands and founders that I've ever been able to and been able to work with them. And it's not because I kind of come out of the gate acting like I know everything. They know that like if I'm an agency and I'm trying to sell them services, I can't say like, I'll make you 100K in 90 days or your money back, all that like kind of BS stuff that is almost a lot of people do nowadays. I think real business owners realize that you want you want honest people that are trustworthy, that don't have massive egos to be on your side. And I think that was a big kind of focus on our content, and the way that we carry ourselves is not to be like the know-it-all guys that have fitness industry down or BS, 'cause that's 100% not the case. It's to be, real, share our failures, talk about our mistakes, be authentic, be like not have a huge ego. And that has kind of amounted to a lot more deal flow, a lot more opportunities, because people are like, oh, these guys are approachable. Oh, I know these guys, when they face adversity, they're not, they're not just gonna bounce. Like they know how to tackle adversity. They know how to handle it. They know how to pivot. These are guys I can rely on, and I think that's my big focus right now, is to be those guys that aren't the overly guru types, just to be approachable, trustworthy, provide an awesome service, and then that's what's going to result in kind of long-term partnerships. So I think you're right on about the whole social media thing, especially Twitter. But yeah, it is what it is.
Twitter's a funny place, man. It's been super fun. I've been able to connect with people
Yeah.
that I otherwise probably never would have.
Yep.
But at the same time, bro, it's like, yeah, totally know what you're talking about there for sure.
Yeah.
Well, bro, I appreciate you hopping on.
Likewise.
If anyone wants to follow you, if they're not already, where can they find you at?
Yeah, Instagram's Patrick N O'Driscoll, and then I think my Twitter is P O'Driscoll _ecom. I'm not as active there, but definitely Instagram. Hit me up anytime. I'll see you there.
There we go, man. Well, it was a
Awesome.
pleasure. You
Thank
have a
you,
good
Zach.
one.
Appreciate it, man.
Thank you. See ya.